Okay, I'm doing this for the third time. I usually never like to do videos over and over again because I find that you get less and less natural when you do it over and over again. But I really wasn't happy with the first two. Um, so Before I left for Kingston or my trip to Kingston, um, I was looking at the demographics. So I was looking at basically race and religion and things like that. And two things popped out at me. Obviously, the atheist thing for, there are many atheists. There are as many atheists in Kingston as there are Roman Catholics. So that kind of popped out at me. And then the other thing was basically Kingston being very white. And the only reason that popped out at me was because I'm a huge fucking racist. So just joking, I'm not. Um, but the only reason that popped out at me was I took a trip to Gravenhurst and Huntsville a few years ago, and I didn't necessarily read anything about like the demographics or the race makeup of those towns, but it was very very white. Like everybody in those towns was white, um, like like just white. Like I was definitely like one out of like maybe two people in the town. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's not that it matters or anything. I mean, I don't think about stuff like that. Um, but so when I read about the demographics in Kingston about it being so white and all this stuff, I thought, I wonder if this is going to be like Gravenhurst or Huntsville, et cetera, et cetera. But you know what? It wasn't. Um, so where we stayed was a little bit noticeably a poorer part of town, and there were a lot of people of color, a lot of people of color. In fact, most people that I saw in that area of town uh, were people of color. Um, and then if you went downtown, most people you saw were white. So I'm not saying anything or anything like that, but I mean that's what it was basically. But I mean we were on like some touristy trips, like boat tours and stuff like that, and there were a lot of people from different parts of the world and different skin colors, and we saw there were some Muslims on the boat. So yeah, and I mean I was there, I'm brown skinned, blah blah blah. So so yeah, I mean that was that. But yeah, Kingston was, it felt generally, I felt like I was a little bit, it was a little bit different from Toronto. I mean, everything there was apparently built in the 1840s. I mean, everything is 1840 something. The tallest structure in the city, the St. Mary's Roman Catholic Cathedral, is basically what was built in the 1840s. City Hall was built in the 1840s, and everything has this Victorian kind of design to it, but it's not completely Victorian because of the limestone. The limestone just gives it a completely different character. It doesn't look, it looks Victorian in a certain way, but there's also this kind of like Roman kind of dealy going on, almost like the almost like the not the White House. Um, oh God, what do they call it in the United States? The House of Representatives, Capitol Hill or whatever, Congress or whatever, that building. Um, so yeah, it had this Victorian kind of thing to it, but that white limestone was kind of strange. It kind of made it look not Victorian. Um, and I should be explaining this more eloquently, but I'm not. But I mean, whatever. I mean, you go look at the buildings; they don't look Victorian. Um, but yeah, everything's like 1840s. Everything. There was one fort that we visited, Fort Frontenac, that was actually built in 1673, and but it's that was kind of one of the rare kind of examples. Um, so anyway, what was I gonna say? So I was gonna go on about the Catholic Church thing and the pedophile priests and all that stuff, but you know what? There's so much news about it. I don't even want to really talk about it. I think I made a few posts about this a while back, and what I thought about it, but yeah, I don't really want to go into it. So yeah, I kind of wanted to just say a little bit about Kingston and then basically talk about this post I made early this morning. I don't know, I was feeling a little bit dramatic this morning, and I made this post about anti anti-natalism, and it was yeah, I basically paraphrased something that I had read earlier about the suffering of the human being, you know, the the attacks on our dignity that we experience on a daily basis. And you know, that word dignity is probably a little bit dramatic. Um, and I'm definitely not referring to any sort of like discriminatory or bias or prejudice kind of thinking. Like, I mean, I'm not referring to anything like that. I'm talking about just the mere fact of living and having to suffer kind of the indignities of just being human. You know, it's something that you don't really want to talk about, and even anti-natalism is something that you don't really want to talk about. It's not popular, but I find that people kind of delude themselves into like how beautiful their lives are and how lovely they are and how lovely life is and how lovely everybody around them is. And but I find that on a pragmatic level, like that doesn't actually work out. Um, and you know, without talking about individual suffering, you can say that there is a lot more suffering in the world. There's, you know, there's for all sorts of different reasons. And do I even have to list them, right? Um, but you know, is the world a better place? Like, I mean, than it was, say, in the 1840s? Obviously, yeah, it was. I mean, it is. Um, it's not, you know, it's not totally unbelievable to say that. Like, I mean, it obviously is, but it's just the fact of human existence is kind of like this constant struggle against external factors, you know, like these things that just keep attacking you, like disease and like even, you know, even like, you know, there's a stupidity that runs through humanity too, and I think we all know it, but it's one of those things you just you're not allowed to say, right? But there's a stupidity that runs through the core of humanity, and you know, don't take my word for it. There was a guy, David Krakauer. He's a evolutionary biologist at the Santa Fe Institute. He studies complex systems, complex biological systems. I don't know, look it up. But yeah, he said, you know, he actually said in one of the Waking Up podcasts with Sam Harris that stupidity is actually much more common. Although a lot of people talk about intelligence, but that turned out to be one of my favorite lines. You know why? Because it's so damn true, and it's something you're not supposed to say at all. You're not supposed to say that. Everything is love and beauty and blah blah blah. And you know what? I'm not totally sick of it because you know, but I'm a little bit sick of it. Look, look. Life is complex, right? You have happiness and you have sadness, etc., etc. But all I'm saying is there's a suffering that happens, and all the great philosophers said this too. I forget which philosopher said this, but I mean, man is born free, but everywhere is yet in change, or yet blah blah blah. But yeah, there is a stupidity that runs all through all human beings. And I have it. I'm sure I have it. I mean, I would like how stupid can I be if you know, I can't not admit that I don't have it. But yeah, it just, I mean, it's just everywhere. And I think that stupidity is not so innocuous or not so irrelevant. Like it's actually very relevant to our daily lives. And I think we just kind of ignore it. We just kind of ignore it because we're not supposed to say it. We're supposed to uphold the confidence of other people, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, going back to the anti-natalist thing, like we 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 suffer more than we experience pleasure in life. We do. Um, and I'm sure people can debate that. They can think about their memories and how well they remember their memories and how well they recall their memories, blah, 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 blah. But I think on an everyday basis, on a second by second basis, we suffer more than we like to admit. And I think the kicker of antinatalism is basically, what if you were never born? Like, there's no sadness there, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's nothing, you can't experience happiness. You never will, you never had, you never will be, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, that's sort of the kicker of antinatalism. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so that was my point. That was basically the point of this video. Talk about antinatalism. Um, but yeah, that's about it. Bye.